Terrificon is back. The Terrific Comic-Con, devoted to, what else? Comic books and their creators, returns to Mohegan Sun Expo Center in Connecticut. The 3-day event features the largest gathering of comic book writers and artists. The largest of its kind in New England is on August 9th through the 11th. Terrificon producer Mitch Halleck promises this year's event will be the best con he's ever produced, with today's top talent like Tom King, Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, Clay Mann, Liam Sharp, Derek Robertson, plus legendary creators Jim Steranko, Chris Claremont, Jim Starlin, Jerry Ordway, and in his final con appearance, the one and only George Perez. Terrificon will be celebrating Batman's anniversary, as well as featuring actors from the Bat films, Billy D. Williams, Robert Wool, and Val Kilmer. Plus, Doctor Who's John Barrowman, The Flash's John Wesley Shipp, the voice cast reunion of Animaniacs, and Pinky and the Brain, and lots more. See for yourself why Terrificon is summer's hottest Comic-Con. This August 9th through the 11th, only at Mohegan Sun. For more information and guest list, visit Terrificon.com. It's terrific! Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here with part 2 of the Bendis tapes. If this is the first part you're hearing, check your podcast feed, find part 1, which was just released a few minutes earlier, and man, a great conversation with Brian. I'll tell you, more questions and answers from many Bendis readers via Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Some of the topics we cover in this part of the conversation. Any leftover Marvel ideas now that Bendis has had some time to reflect. Was there anything left on the table over at Marvel? An update on the Kitty Pryde script that Brian wrote for Tim Miner, the director of Deadpool, and also more information on Leviathan, and certainly more information on all of Brian's books, the Legion book that's coming, Event Leviathan, Event Millennial, or Millennial as Brian calls it. Is that a clue? Is it Lois Lane that's this immortal that's been walking through 1,000 years of the DC universe into the future? I don't know. I guess we'll find out in the weeks ahead. But lots more talk, too, about the Legion and his Superman books, his Jinxworld books, his Wonder Comics, all in this conversation. Also, we talk about the passing of Vertigo, and Brian talks about the time that he auditioned for Vertigo. Did you know that was in Brian's history? I certainly didn't. And we spent a good chunk of time talking about that. Lots of really interesting stuff. Of course, some writer process advice on how Brian does it. And a lot of people ask those kinds of questions. They asked those questions in part 1 as well. And it's all covered here in a lengthy part 2 of the Bendis tapes on today's Word Balloon. Today's Word Balloon is brought to you by Aftershock Comics, the industry's fastest growing independent publishing company, prompting both new and established audiences to read dangerously. Great stuff from Aftershock over the past few years, things like A Walk Through Hell from Garth Ennis, and Donny Cates' Baby Teeth, Dark Arc from Cullen Bunn and Juan Doe, the flagship Animosity from Marguerite Bennett. Lots of great new stuff also that debuted this year, things like Dark Red from Tim Seeley, and Stronghold from my dear buddy Phil Hester. And also some really neat stuff coming up this summer. Things like Chris Sabella's Trustfall, which is already underway. There's Joe Pruitt's horror anthology Shock, and Cullen Bunn's Knights Temporal, and Matthew Klickstein's You Are Obsolete, just to name a few. They're going to cut across genres and take readers far beyond their comfort zones. In the days ahead, we'll have more talks with Aftershock creators about their books, but you don't have to wait. You'll find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. All right, let's get into it and pick up right away with another great question from the Bendis readers. Part 2 of the Bendis tapes, now on Word Balloon. Artist Jerry Bennett, do you feel you've told all the stories you wanted to tell over at Marvel? Anything you wished you had written before you left? Any writing-related bucket list items not crossed off yet?
I will say I did read this question ahead of time, so I'm cheating.
No problem.
And most of these, by the way, I have not.
Okay.
So this one I did read. I must have caught it when he posted it, and I did reflect, and I was also reflecting on something I read that Donnie wrote, that made me Donnie Cates, that made me, in the best way possible, feel like the Marvel universe had completely moved on, and how really great that felt, that I didn't feel any like longing.
Okay.
And you know, and it was in good hands of Donnie and Jason and
Great
Kelly
creators at Marvel, right?
Matt, and
Absolutely.
again, I'm going to stop naming stuff because there's like I always forget Chip, and like I love Chip, and frankly, I love Chip more than most of those other people.
Chip's hilarious.
Even though I'm still 90% sure Chip is Matt. I had this
Chip kills me
because I go, what will this feel like a year from now? Like when I left Marvel, like what will I feel like a year from now? What will I feel like 5 years from now? What am I going to feel like the night of the Miles movie wins an Oscar? What is that going to feel like?
It's true.
Like I had 2 months of everyone telling me it's going to win an Oscar, and me going, what? Like that's like insane words, and then I'm like, well, I should think about what if that happens? Everyone keeps saying it. So these are weird things to feel and weird feelings to have, but I have them, and you asked about them. So I did have that beautiful, I don't feel any negative feelings about this. I feel really good that the things that I really love are in really good hands. And about every 6 hours, someone tweets me how good Kelly's writing is on Jessica Jones. And I'm so deeply happy to hear that. I handpicked her.
Oh, that's cool. That's great.
And I'm so happy that worked out. So also maybe it's because of the Spider-Verse thing and the Kitty Pryde movie. Like my unhooking has been very slow and therapeutic. Like it wasn't like it felt like a Band-Aid, like when we announced. Mm-hmm. But it was in no way, shape, or form a Band-Aid. First, I got sick, and then I was behind schedule, right. and then Kitty Pryde got behind schedule, and then Spider-Verse. And so there's always been a little Marvel trickled in through all the kryptonite. So I never felt weird, and now it feels good.
Very cool. You meant
also because the DC stuff kind of landed well. Sure. I guess it was time to go, and everyone agrees, and honestly, I sometimes go through waves where maybe I should have left a few years ago, but I don't regret anything that I did, so I don't feel like, oh shit, I should have left years ago, because I never felt it.
I understand.
Right?
Well, it felt like me again. My perception at the time when the announcement was made public, I'm like, this seems like the right time because you got to do your Defenders that you wanted to do. I just think, and again,
and I talk about it with like Sam and Greg because I'm having such a time at DC that you kept going, I could have been having all this like 2 years ago, but I wasn't having a bad time at Marvel. I was having a great time at Marvel, and it's been made very clear that DC wasn't ready for me a few years ago. I might not have enjoyed it as much.
I hear you, man. So, no, I get it.
Yeah, so this is it was good timing, but so I find myself relieved and surprised that I don't have any longing or stories that are lingering, and it is I feel that Kitty Pryde screenplay and working on Spider-Verse is almost like it's cheating. Like if that itch even pops up a little bit, I've had something to scratch.
Can I ask, given that you've mentioned Kitty Pryde now a couple of times, given what happened with Dark Phoenix and now the whole Marvel Disney, or I should say the Fox Disney merger, and we don't know what's going to happen or whatever. What's the status of Kitty Pryde?
Every time we talk about it on here, it makes news. So I will tell you that the screenplay is completed and handed in, and my services on it are no longer required. It was an outstanding job from top to bottom. I don't want to say the project is dead. I don't know if writers never know if the project is dead or not. Sure. You're only told what you're told, and I know what I was told. Then I'm not going to repeat it in case it's old information or not true, and it's also not mine. I am no longer writing it, but I enjoyed writing it deeply on at least 9 different levels. I had it, including handing it in to what I was sure was it not going anywhere. I have never had that experience in my life where I was writing my little ass off, and I know no one's ever going to see this.
Understood. Yeah.
Like,
well,
I don't know, but like I read Deadline Hollywood. I'm not stupid. I see what's going on, and so but still, it's something with your name on it. You're getting paid for. I wrote it with like the fire of hell at my feet, and I must say the person who I heard back from, their enjoyment level of it was about as much as I'd ever wanted from anything. And I literally said, knowing that that's the end of this transaction, that was a completely satisfying transaction.
Okay.
I wrote something, the person read it and really liked it, and that's it.
And you got paid. God bless you.
I got paid, yeah. So it was, and that deep therapeutic months of hanging out in the X Mansion when I was supposed to be in the Daily Planet.
Sure.
And it really, it's like you're like Rob Lowe in St. Elmo's Fire, like go home, but without anyone noticing.
That's cool. Well, we never know. I mean, Frank Darabont write an Indiana Jones script, and I think Straczynski did, and some of these great writers over the years.
Millions of big name writers, way bigger than I'll ever be, with the massive scripts with huge characters that no one will ever see. I have some of them in my house. My favorite thing is I'll tell you off the air. Sure.
All right.
But the cool scripts that no one even knows exist.
Well, and
that are really well written.
Mark Altman, the co-creator of the film Free Enterprise, has been doing like the best movies never made podcast.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun. Yeah. So
yeah,
I
love reading. We've talked about in the past. I like if I find early drafts of my favorite movies. Like my favorite, I have a draft of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and in it, I think I talk about this in Words of Pictures, but in it, remember they're on the plane over the Andes Mountains, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a version, and they're with a bunch of chickens, right?
Okay.
There's one draft where it's Indiana Jones, Short Round, and Willie, and they're in a plane with 14 other people. Oh. And Indiana Jones has to now get 14 other people off the plane. And he does. He gets all 14 people off the plane. It takes 30 pages. And then they go on to the movie. So I love seeing that choice and how well done it is in the script. But then you, as part of a movie, you go, yeah, we got to get to the movie. Can they be chickens? I think about that often. And that's something you can only get from reading someone else's script.
I understand. That's hilarious. Kara,
I don't think there's a script I go through where I go, are there anything here that we better off being chickens, or some like that would get to the story faster?
Kara Carroll is back, and she asks 5 Brainiac 5 something pre-crisis 5 years later SW6 PZH.
I'm not going down this road. No.
And 3-boot. Rank and order of best. Okay, fair enough. There you go.
Legion fans have made, like, I must say, the Legion fans and X fans, there's a nice Venn diagram because they let you know where the bear traps are.
Alex Chung, go on.
Go ahead, that's it.
All right, Alex Chung on Tumblr. You said to ask this again. Yeah, he's a good man. He's always following us on Twitter. When you're well into the DC work, did you always intend Spider-Man 2 to end with the return of the Ultimate Universe, or did you know you were going to DC and decided to put all the toys back in the box?
No. I wrote that all before I was leaving, and then I started leaving and went, oh, I'm really glad I wrote that. And that's very sincere. Okay. And then you start, I forget, it wasn't Matt. One of my other writer friends thought, I wonder if you started writing all this stuff subconsciously already out the door. But I wasn't. Like there wasn't an offer on the table. I wasn't looking around, right? But if anything, maybe I was trying to open doors to other kinds of stories for me personally, right? So it was more that, but I had that weird feeling of, oh, I'm so glad these stories all reflect how I feel right now because they're my last stories, right? And also, as a teacher, one of my lessons is always you write something like it's the last thing you're going to write, or it's the first thing anyone's going to read of yours, right? You know, you write with that, write it like that, write it like it's the last time you're ever going to be with this character every time. And so when I got to my final stories, I'm like, oh, I always do that. Thank God. That's why they say it. So when you're there, you don't feel like shit. So that was a unique experience for me. And again, I've had a lot of time to unpack all this. So thank you for asking that question. It was a very unique experience. I know there's other writers who have gone back and forth to DC and straddled both the same, but this completely unhooking from one and completely hooking onto the other is unique to just a few people.
Brian, will there be scenes in Legion of the characters sitting around eating lunch? Because I generally love these scenes. I loved them in your Avengers titles. I did. And what kind of challenge are you finding in reintroducing these characters? It's been a while since they've been around. Do you feel that you have a bit of a blank slate with them? Thanks, by the way. I just want to commend you for the attitude you have during interviews. Humble, grateful, appreciative. You seem like a true mensch. He is a true mensch.
Well, thank you for the menschiness. I do appreciate that.
So yeah,
there was a lot of questions there. What was the first?
Hangout scenes, just like kind of nothing scenes where they're sitting around eating lunch or whatever.
Yes, and the hangout scenes in Superman are like family scenes, or like Lois and Clark like making out. Being catching a moment with your wife or your son is.
Got to go to the Drake Hotel for a nooner with Lois. Hang out.
Exactly, and so we have been doing it. Clark doesn't seem need a lot as much chicken wings as Wolverine did, so it doesn't come in the form of eating. But yes, I will tell you that in Event Leviathan 4, the detectives literally, it's the first time. Okay, we're standing around deciding something, and lo and behold, food came out. And because I did wonder, am I writing less food scenes because I'm eating less food personally? And because I am and I do, but no, because I do believe that the Marvel characters genuinely need to carb up more than the DC characters.
That's hilarious, except for the speedsters, of course. Which
yeah. But even them, it's a different metabolism.
Interesting.
But it looks to me like Spider-Man and Wolverine are always hungry. But Superman can go a while. When
Clark and Lois hook up, does he kink his hair for role playing or something like that every now and then to spice things up? I love that. I just love that that's his power. And then he grunts when he does it. That killed me. I'm telling you, man. Chris Delbart, missed opportunity. That's all I'm saying.
When all of the dust settles on my DC years and all that's left is Chaz and Matt Fraction and Jimmy Olsen, I will be very happy.
Chaz. Hi, how you doing? I'm Chaz.
Chaz.
I work for Spiral. Nice to meet you. I'm a secret agent. That's the voice I'd add to it. If I were to
you
do
literally gave him your impression of Matt doing Ed Brubaker? That would be
Man, I had the two of them on two different podcasts where they were together and it killed me.
I know, it's so funny.
McFederis or McFedoris. Are we going to see a DC version of John, meaning me, I assume? Maybe at the Daily Planet or somewhere in the Legion? I would love that.
Yeah, I know for sure. You're when Connor gets back to high school, Principal Sultress will have made the leap.
Oh wow! God damn, that's fantastic.
You're the only character that survived Justice League, whatever that was.
No, and I always bring it up.
Justice League Avengers. I couldn't think of Avengers. Oh
the JLA Avengers. Sure. I was thinking of when in Quasar they brought Barry Allen and he was buried alien. And he's like, I don't know who the hell I am, and all he had were like the boots and like tatters of his costume, but it was clearly the Flash. It was fantastic.
Well, we will put Principal Suttress into Young Justice, and
that'd be great.
We'll see if Marvel lawyers come after you.
Exactly. No, I'm for it. Sam Gossam, obviously reflecting on the image of Young Justice with Captain Carrot. Someone give me this fucking comic now.
Well, I got to tell you, and it was so great that one image. The reason I posted that image in particular is Dave LaFuente, who I did some of my favorite Spider-Mans with.
Oh yes.
But aren't hailed as strongly as the stuff with Sarah because Miles is in it, but the stuff with David was equally outstanding.
Oh yeah.
And when people reflect some of their moments, it's the stuff David did. And so David reached out to me a little bit ago, said, "Hey," and I haven't heard from him in a while, and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "You're doing this," and I literally haven't talked to him in years. And then he hands in that panel of Bart going yes because he's so happy where they are, and it's so perfect. It's perfect as the first issue of Spider-Man did together. Like Dave LaFuente is an amazing cartoonist.
Yeah, he is. Well, he did Principal Suntress, so he's in my book.
That's right, he did.
See? There we
That's
go.
right.
I don't forget my guys. Absolutely, man. That's fantastic. Reed Schmitz. Simply, what's your routine? Any special habits you have while working?
Well, getting enough done every day is the biggest one. Like I have a daily allotment of stuff that will get done or you're not going to bed. Which includes raising my children and being a husband and, so it's like,
Sure.
I have a list of things that I do. And so, my privilege is that so many things have been taken off my plate so I can just write. Right. So, that allows me a great deal of time to experiment. So with that comes me just doing things you're never going to see, or writing scenes I'm never going to show you, or just trying stuff out. And that alone is, I think, the biggest part of the routine that people wouldn't see. Like if you watched me all day and you say, like people, they even write me, they go, "Hey, can I come shadow you all day?" And I'm like, boy, I can't imagine that being interesting because it's such an internalized process what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like drawing is much more fun to watch than writing. It just is. And so my routine involves making sure I can get to whatever truth I need to get to every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this kind of extends to Reed Schmidt's question. I just graduated college. I'm working a retail job, writing every day, and every chance I get, hoping to turn it into a career or something more than a hobby. How do you balance life with the daily work of writing? What would you do if you were an up-and-coming writer getting their start today?
Well, I 100% was a working writer with a job well into my run on Ultimate Spider-Man. Okay? So, because even that, when I got Ultimate Spider-Man, it wasn't guaranteed that it was a forever job that I turned it into. Like most jobs last a few months. It's freelance, like we talked about before.
Sure.
And what I was talking about earlier about my privilege being that a lot of things are off my table, that's because for many, many years, these things were on my table.
Yep.
Like all the things that, that you're talking about, real life concerns and paying the bills and
Hell
such.
yeah.
So, but what I did, and many of my friends, all of which ended up being successful, what we did is we did the comic book version of Dress for the Job You Want, which is like, yes, comic book, that means you're going to wear pajamas all day, but because that's the job you want. But it also means acting the part. And that means act like the writing that you're doing is being seen by millions of people. Act like even if it's no one's ever going to see it, you go home and you act like you're fucking J.K. Rowling and you need to get your work done, right? So when you come home from Pottery Barn or wherever you're working, wherever Red Robin, wherever you're working, like whatever gig I had, I worked at a photomat, I worked at grocery stores. I would then go home and start my full-time job as famous comic book artist, and then work all night. And just do it. And then by the time my life became, I'm making comic books for a living, I had prepared myself because I had been acting the part even when I wasn't. And David Mack will talk about this. He goes, I acted like I had it all worked out when we were in our early 20s. I talked like I knew everything. And it wasn't that I did. It was because I was training myself to act like I knew what I was doing. So when someone called me and said, "Do you know what you're doing?" I'd say yes, and then figure it out later. So just not pretend, just convince yourself you're already a writer, artist, or writer, or whatever you want to be, and just do that. And I know we say this online and people think we're being coy. All you have to do to be in comics is make a comic. That's all you have to do. There's no corporate badge that you get. There's no certificate of authenticity that arrives in the mail. You make comics and you're in comics. You make a record, you're a recording artist.
Yep.
And may I say the difference between the world I came up in and the world you're coming up in is that I think the world of you getting your work out there is much easier.
Agreed.
This is, I know I'm talking about prehistoric times, but we were making comics pre-email and internet.
That's right.
And going to shows was the hustle, right? You go there and no one knows who you are. There's no social media for me to say, hey, I'm coming to Michigan. You just show up in Michigan and hope that anyone gives a shit.
Yep.
Right?
Stumbles on your book in Artist Alley. Absolutely.
Right? And then you get there and then you're hustling it book by book.
Yep.
Like Girl Scout cookies. You're out there just hustling. And that's your life. Today, you can create a base of operations for yourself online.
Yep.
And flood it with work. Flood it with all of your voices, with all of your experiments, all of your chances, right? All of the things that make you you, right? So then as you're progressing, more and more people are going to hop on board. More and more people are going to get into it. You're going to get that used to what feedback feels like because guess what? It's always hard and it's never going to all of a sudden get easy, right? So you got to, build up your thick skin as you go as well. This is something I did for myself almost by accident because I got to come up with the internet, right? I got to come up as it changed and altered. So when it all went to hell a couple years ago, I was ready. But I must say, this is me and David teach at Portland State as well, and we would say, oh my God, if only we were coming up in the time of social media, right? And some of our students said, oh, we're not on social media. We don't have it. Like there's a generation coming up that sees it as nothing but terror and pain, and why would you inflict yourself on it? Then now we're in another area where people don't even want to go on social media to support their own work because they don't think it's worth it. And I don't know what's coming next. So I can only tell you that if there's a place where there's a lot of people and they're going to see your work and you can be honest there, then you should do it. And you mute the assholes. You just do.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So so I'm still thinking about my student who winced at the idea of having to go on social media to sell their art and how different that was from anybody we feel like in our generation.
Sure.
Like, oh, good, Twitter. I can get out there and show my
straight.
Right. And what a gift I can get. There's 80,000 people on Instagram following me. I can hit them right away.
Yep.
Right. What a gift that is. And how it doesn't seem like a gift to some people now. So. But I would make a base of operations. I would have a website and it would just be constantly filled. Short stories, experiments, thoughts, and also think about the energy you want to put out as a creator. I've been talking about young creators about this as well. I was always lucky that the energy that I want to put out is pretty much still the energy I want to put out, even though, as an older man, I probably make less dick jokes, but they're also less appreciated is why.
That's true.
But I'd say that we do live in a very confusing society and culture, and that I do know that, and I guess I didn't do it on purpose, but I do know that some of my people who follow me. It's that energy, that Menchie energy that I'm bringing to the table. That's part of it. So even if I'm doing something with John Kent that's driving you nuts, at least I'm not being a dick about it. So, so I think to other creators and younger creators, people are coming to us even on Twitter for to get away from it all. We are escapism at its purest level. And most of our readers are also creative people, even if it's not comic books. It's part of their creative experience, comic books. So we should be there for them on those levels. We should be inspirational. We should be, championing, go, as people did for us. And especially if there's so many people on Twitter really trying to make people feel bad all the time about everything to make themselves feel better, or just, whatever that weird negative influencer thing is, that those of us who are more in touch with our truth and our voice, we should really make sure those out there that don't have it yet, we can help them get to it.
Fair enough.
I'm trying not to say, does that make sense?
I understand, but no, no, you were clear in what you're saying, and I agree with you, and I, from a podcasting standpoint, I share everything you're saying and agree.
Every once in a while, I see a creator out there who goes online and bitches to holy hell, and I get it. But you got to remember that you're bitching to people who have really shitty jobs, and even on our worst day, making comic books for a living is one of the greatest jobs of all time.
Here.
Oh my God! You sat around in your boxers and you drew shit all day.
Exactly.
So I just want to reflect to some of the creators out there that we all have bad days, and I bitch to all my friends about stuff I bitch about. But online, I think we should be inspiring.
I like it. KL Cult has a compound question. An issue in Event Leviathan feels more like a mystery story than a traditional crossover event. So far, it most reminds me of Secret War. How are you approaching it differently to the other event books you've done? And also, he asks, bringing back Leviathan as an organization, what inspired you to do that?
Oh, great questions. Number one, yes, my biggest worry when Event Leviathan launched was it literally has the word event in it, and that's my fault. But the framework of an event story is kind of like the template of a disaster movie. Like there's some big disaster happens and everyone deals with it, right? Okay. And I've been just in the most general sense. Right?
Because identity
incidents. Kids blow up in a bus, aliens attack. So they're Irwin Allen movies, right? Even Avengers Endgame, that is what it is. And so I was coming to this, and I have authored some of them, so I know what that feeling is, what that flavor that when you hear event is. So I was worried that this striving, as I was so hard to write something for Alex that gives him everything he'd ever wanted and at the same time defies every cliche that you get from a story like this, that I had created an Agatha Christie chapter that was in direct contrast to what people were expecting. So I was very happy that so many people were on board with, they were into the groove of it, because that was my biggest fear. Is that they're giving each other the stink eye, but it's good if you're into it, right? So thank you to everyone for being on board for that too. I was emboldened by the reaction at DC. I had written that first issue with this. I want to handle all these characters and do everything as anti the cliche of what you would see from these characters. And then when I ended up with it, I handed it in and I literally said, is this a thing?
That's interesting.
And I was grateful that they were all on board with it. Because that's how nervous I was about the tone of it. But anyway, it came from Leviathan. A lot of things in the real world that rose to become something rose out of something else. Right, like the CIA came out of something else. A lot of spy organizations specifically were something that evolved to something.
Yes.
So, in that sense, it seemed that the only true way for an organization to really rise up in the DC universe was it to be being built out of something else. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes. Thank you. I actually knew that one made sense, and until I asked it. Mental diary. Anyway, so what we're going to slowly reveal, and we got a big chunk of sense of it from the Superman Leviathan special, is that this has been taken away from Talia. That this was Talia's jam, it is no longer her jam. How that happened and why is coming forward, but I felt it a very true, real world way to build what we're building. Like, and it made me believe in it, so I can make you believe in it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Paul C. Cantania, excuse me. My last post was missing something. I meant to ask, do you know if DC is going to release the solicitation for Young Justice 9? The DC preview was released today, that was 2 days ago, and there was still no sign. I remember a post saying there was a mix-up. Apologies if this has already been answered. Thanks, Brenda's. Take care.
No, happy to answer it again because there was a mix-up. There's no solicitation for Young Justice this month because last month, as we were rearranging everything and getting things ready for John Timms to take over the book, they said, "Hey, do you want to do a skip month? We can afford it in the budget, you know." And I'm like, "Oh," and that'll set up, everybody to really, win. And then I totally 100% forgot I agreed to that. And so everyone goes on Twitter and goes, "Hey, where's Young Justice?" Like, I don't know. This is an outrage. And then and then they go, "Well, here's the email where you agreed to the
skip month."
Skip month. So that's what it was. Skip month for quality, and we are back in it right away. So
I like it.
Yeah, we're not canceled. We're good to go.
Franca 365. Given that we're returning Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen to ongoings,
yes. How about that?
I'm very excited. What other supporting characters do you think you'd like to see in their own titles?
There's actually quite a few. I'm such in my honeymoon phase at DC that every character is just looks like a big juicy steak of story, right? Just every character's just got all this story hanging off it. So, I tweeted about this the other day, but I could talk about it a little more here. Now, Greg and Matt have been coming over on a regular basis, and we've been hunkering down just the three of us and just building Metropolis, just building it.
That's
and
awesome.
It's been, just for us, literally just for us. And it's been such a great experience. I actually tweeted about it the other day because I had one of those moments that I stood outside myself and I said, if I was a fan of the Superman books, and the three Superman writers loved each other so much and they were getting together and just building, I would love to know that.
Oh, yeah.
So, I tweeted about it.
Is it like, because I know Greg did this with Ed Brubaker on Gotham Central, and they mapped out a Gotham City, and they knew where the warehouses were. And they're like, by the way, there's like a million warehouses.
It's a lot like that, but it's also building the sociological structure of Metropolis. Like, what does it feel like to live under Superman? Like, what does it feel like to live under Lois Lane? So these are, questions that can be answered very specifically in Metropolis. And and also both Greg and Matt are bringing things to Lois and Jimmy that at the end of their first year could then spill out into Metropolis, creating a whole new era for Metropolis.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's very exciting. We have already started those seeds have already been planted.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I like it.
And what's great is that when I hopped on Superman, and again, not to mention again, but it's attached to it, when I was in the hospital and Greg and Matt didn't fucking leave my bedside, and just when I'm blinded and they're just talking to me about Superman, particularly Greg, just whistling to me about Superman to keep my mind off it.
Yeah.
You're sitting here going, boy, I'd like to get out of here and go write Superman with him, right? And then like last Tuesday, he's in my house and we're sitting up there on the porch, the three of us, a nice summer day, and we're just talking about Superman until 12 o'clock at night. And I go, this is exactly what I wanted to do when I got the fuck out of the hospital, was have my dear friends who I love so much, who are two of the best writers ever,
damn straight, feel
so impassioned about this, that they're this riled up.
I hear you, man. No, put that in contrast back in the early 70s when everybody writing a Superman book was really doing their own thing. Action was different from Superman and the like, and you hear these tail end of the Silver Age kind of stories about how, Julie Schwartz had to corral them all, but they were just kind of doing their own thing. And
but we love stories like, oh my God, Walt Simonson and Frank Miller had a studio together.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, God, yes.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's always, and I know that to this day, even though I've been here 18 years, Portland seems like this mystical land of comic book creation to people who don't live here, right? This is constant. Every time you hear Portland in comics, there's some weird thing.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. So it's, so I just like to add to that with it. Oh, yeah, it's what you think. Me and Matt and Greg get together.
No, you're right. In Periscope, the studio over there. I mean, all my friends that are all working in that same shop. I think it's still called Periscope.
The other day, Kelly was over here, and she was, and anyone who's heard Kelly speak, I won't be surprised to know that Kelly can really get going. Kelly can really get I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, going about anything.
Oh yeah.
And she was laying into me about Aquaman. But with her passion about Aquaman, her love of Aquaman, was such a fire that I would just started smiling. And I was like, there's not a fan in the world who wouldn't be going, yes! And knowing that the fucking writer of Aquaman loves Aquaman this much.
No, I'm due to talk to Kel in a couple of weeks. I'm telling the listeners this. And it's been a long time. I was going to talk, again, my illness. I was going to talk to her at the end of 18, and then I got sick. And but everything's fine. Everything's progressing. Everything's going well.
And your update is good.
Yeah. Honestly, well, they're letting me travel again, so that's good news.
Oh, great!
And I'll be at Terrificon in Connecticut, and I'll have. Oh boy, I can't wait to tell you about my panel with Steranko. That's going to happen.
Film it.
I know. Oh God, I hope someone does. But that'll be interesting. I'm prepared, but I'm also prepared to. And now here's Jim, and then I don't say anything till. Are there any more questions? Thank you for coming.
You cannot be prepared for him. You cannot.
I'm sure.
I have never. I've been in comics. I've literally known him the entire time I've been in comics. He has never been what you thought he was going to be, and he's always delivered.
Yeah, man. No, I'm excited. I really am. Like, I was in the hospital, not with your worst case scenario, but they're like, "Hey, man, good news. Steranko's going to do a panel at Terrificon, and he's cool with you moderating it." And I'm like, "But I don't know if I'm going to go." So thank God I am, and that'll be great. Then yeah.
I love him, but I want him to make one more fucking masterpiece. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And I know that's not fair of me. I know it's not.
Yeah, no, and again, there's a guy that, he's in his 80s for God's sake, so I don't know how much he wants to, He
tweeted me last year, he tweeted me, goes, me and you right now, come over here right now, we'll do it. And I go, I'd fucking do it if you would.
I hear you, man. Well, there was that frogs thing that he was doing.
Say it at the panel. Yeah, say last year you said to Brian, get your ass on a plane and me and you'll make a comic.
I will. I'm making that note. All right.
Yeah, I 100% would make that happen.
And by the way, getting back to Kel, that's one of the reasons why this past week I re-released Star Talk when she first was telling me about what she wanted to do with Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel. And my favorite quote, and I'd completely forgotten about it, but she's explaining Carol's complicated, relationship with her father. And she's like, let's face it, the Marvel Universe has got daddy issues all over the place. And I just busted out laughing. I'm like, you are right. I'm like, wait, I'm going through my pull list. Yep. And it's like, yeah, it's true. And that's not a man-woman thing. That is absolutely Peter Parker.
100% not a
Bruce
man-woman.
Banner.
We talked about this privately. I can't remember if we said it on the air, but for years I would go, boy, I want to ask Stanley what was up with him and his dad. But how do you ask a 93-year-old dude, hey, what was with you and your dad?
Good question. Because absolutely, yeah.
So much of the Marvel Universe is about father betrayal, father abandonment, or you know what I mean, or just the villain is the bad guy. So yeah,
absolutely, man. As I cough, Troy Clemson.
A lot of Stan's beats were father son.
100%, man. No, and that's why I'm like, no, because someone's like, oh yeah, I figured, and it's like, no, man, that ain't a feminist thing. That's a Marvel Universe thing. Step back and realize. Just calm down.
Yeah, and also it's a human thing. Yeah. It really is. It just we've all got issues with our family.
100%. Well, you can argue that obviously Superman, and this is one of the great things about having Jor-El have these conversations now with Superman, no matter where his brain is and how crazy he is. this is a really great opportunity. Much like Tom doing it in Batman too, with
mine was
Flashpoint Thomas
gift.
Wayne.
Mine was a gift.
Sure.
I know I've been sitting with it for a year and a half. There's no way in hell I would have brought Jor-El back from anywhere to write what I'm writing. But but Dan gave me such a gift.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity.
Here. And So that storyline will come to a conclusion with the end of the Unity saga for people who want to know. So
interesting.
Yeah.
And I noticed.
I know we brought our daddy issues from Marvel to DC.
Oh, please. That's again, Tom's doing it with Thomas Wayne, Flashpoint, and Batman and everything. No, it's great
and
stuff.
I do really dig, and they were not done in concert, but there's something very cool about Tom's path with Batman and his father, and my path with Superman and his father.
Sure.
And that both of these characters, who have so often been reflections of each other in the weirdest of ways, are doing it now again. And that will be some story that we'll be able to deal with later on. Like both of us, there's something there for later. That's cool.
Trey Crimson. Are there still plans for a sequel to Words with Pictures?
Yes. It's frustrating because like the time it takes to teach is the time that I could be writing that book.
Sure.
So I was teaching with David Walker, and I were teaching all year. So we've stopped teaching. We just literally last week was our last class and handed in finals for the semester. So both David and I could go do. David has a nonfiction graphic novel that I'm dying for him to do.
Oh, cool.
And I have my nonfiction work, which is a sequel to Words with Pictures, both of which we are frustrated we have not got done yet. But look how much – it's not like we weren't working, but it's time to get those done. So I believe in September I've started hardcore work on the sequel. It's called Creation, and it's about it's just going to be about everything that's happened from my last year at Marvel and all of this and all of the building, about just creating characters and stuff.
Okay, Trey has another question, and we've covered this subject before, but I'm happy to get more input. Have you ever been in a place mentally that you were unmotivated to write? How were you able to overcome that obstacle and regain your confidence in your writing abilities?
I'm always happy to talk about this because I know it is a struggle for many, many people. Sure. And I also know that this particular podcast has been very helpful to people in this regard. We've heard, you and I both heard from people.
100%. Absolutely. And thank you for including me. Absolutely.
So listen, I'll tell you, I even as a young broke comic creator, always put it in my head that my value as a human was somehow involved with how much I actually got done during the day. So, and I also had convinced myself at the time that, what do you call it there? When you can't write. Why am I blanking?
Writer's block, obviously.
Writer's block. Yeah, by the way, that's what the Legion of Superheroes does to my brain. I'm sitting there going, well, no, it's not. It's not from that planet. It's not from that planet. I have to go through the 38 planets of the Legion of Superheroes to come up with a word. So, writer's block. I convinced myself that it is a mental issue I just do not have. Right. So, and I do believe that, and some people, not all people, that you can just convince yourself of stuff. You can just say, I'm not one of those people. Right? Just like you're not someone who robs banks. Well, I'm just not one of those people, right?
Okay.
I'm not someone who's not going to write today, right? So, and you go, well, that's easier said than done. Yes, it is true. It's easier said than done. So some tricks that I do for myself is that if you go, well, I don't even know what to write. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing, right? I go, well, who am I mad at? Who am I happy with? What am I upset about? And I don't think there's any shortage of things to be upset about in this world, right? Hey, you know what? There's babies in cages. You can't find something to write about?
Yeah.
Right? I don't mean to belittle what's going on there, but I'm talking about for looking for passion is not hard in this world.
Correct.
So So whatever it is that your passion is, may it be something a lot more lighthearted than what I just said, but whatever it is, let that be the case. I deeply love producing work. I loved making and publishing a comic book. The thrill of my first comics was so intense. And I know you've seen like movies where people see like themselves in a movie for the first time, or they hear themselves recorded for the first time, and they're never the same. It does happen. You go, all right, that's it. That's me now. I'm that person. I'm a person. I'm an animal that makes this, right?
Yep.
And so by announcing that of yourself, you're now just removing writer's block from your life. You're saying I'm writer's block is not something a writer has. A writer writes. So those are my things. And if you're stuck with your character, if you're stuck in a place with your character, just start writing it. Don't worry about the plot. Don't worry about what happens on page 18. Don't worry about, but I promised my friend, don't even worry about what genre it is. Like so many people in the middle of creating something, and then they said, I can't do that. This is a sword and sorcery book. Who said it's a sword and sorcery book? No one's ever heard of it before. No one's seen it. It's in your head. It's an imaginary thing. It could be anything you want it to be. So if what you're writing isn't inspiring you, look at it and go, well, what would inspire me? What would get me to want to make this? Because I guarantee you, if you can get there in your head, you can get someone to buy it. That is a truth I have lived through hundreds of times. Things where I go, I'm so deeply passionate about this, and I can't even describe it in words until I'm done with it. And then I put it out, and the response is enormous. And I'm like, holy shit, that was crazy what just happened, that creative experience. Yeah. So I not to overdo that, but then also I get to a place, and may get a little more real world. I get paid at the end of mine. When I'm done writing mine, someone writes me a check. That's very motivating.
Hear, hear.
If you need something a little more concrete, so even my indie books, like I don't get paid for them until they come out. So if I want my money back, I have to release them, or it's a lost leader situation. So that is my motivations. I know they're pretty universal for some. I know a lot of people like live in fear, and they live a fear of failure. And I wrote about it in great length in my book, Words for Pictures. So if you want to take a look at that, you can. And I wrote about it in great length because the word fear kept showing up in the same questions on my Tumblr. Like people say, I have writer's block because I'm afraid of, or I fear I'm going to, or I'm afraid of. And I'm like, and all those things that people are afraid of are things that have actually happened to me in real life. Like, I have failed creatively. I have shit the bed in front of everyone in comics, right?
Right.
I've embarrassed them, whatever it is. Someone called me a filthy Jew on the internet. Whatever thing you're scared of happening, it has happened to me. Maybe this week, and I'm here to live the tale and tell you it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Every embarrassment, every nerve-wracking thing, every the shaking I was doing before Pearl's release, I was so nervous about it. All of that goes into it. It's all worth it when you sit down to do the work. All right, I'll stop now.
I liked it.
That was a good one, though. That was like the best one.
Lightning Life 13. I love Captain Carrot in Justice League. Moving on. Jay Mosher 277. Any plans for Superboy Prime?
No.
Well, again, that's you saying don't look back, look forward.
And not only that, I have a lot of Superboys on my plate.
Yes, you do. This is true.
So, by the way, I made very, very clear, and I made this mistake on this podcast a few times. And I'm not saying there's no plans for Superboy Prime at all. I'm saying I have no plans for him right at the moment.
Da-da.
Okay, I just got it. I have not misspoke, but missed something.
We need more, and not from you necessarily, but I'm sure if Johns is listening, we need more meta conversations of Superboy Prime of the way comics are currently being written, because that really is the best part of what happened with Superboy Prime, that he became.
I did love that.
Yeah, he became one of us angry people shaking our fists. K. Kyle Windle. It's like Wee Willie Winky. Hey, another Bendis Tapes. Brian, I saw you speak at CXC in Columbus. I forget what CXC stands for. I know that's Tom Spurgeon's excellent
it's a small press event.
Well, I know what it is, but go on. Yeah.
It's a small press event. It's awesome. It's in Columbus. It's part of the Cartoon Museum's
Billy Ireland. Yes, Ohio State.
Yeah,
yep.
part of that whole jam.
Yep.
I had been there at the earliest days in the 90s.
Oh, no kidding.
When David used to go down to sign at Laughing Ogre.
Sure. Yeah.
We were there when the museum got its first, not museum, I forget what they call it, but when it got its first donations from Will Eisner and stuff.
Oh, wow.
We got flipped through when they were just in folders, and now it's like this big thing.
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's pretty crazy. That was a good weekend. That was a very life-fulfilling weekend, life-affirming.
Yeah, you and Fraction. And like I said, Tom Spurgeon behind that. I hope he does it again.
And me and Tom had a good talk. That was on-stage talk together.
Smart dude. Let's see. Thanks for visiting and sharing your passion. There's a lot I love about your take on Superman, but I especially love hearing you talk about Lois. What are some of your favorite Lois stories?
Coming soon in the pages of Greg Rucka's Lois Lane is one of my favorite Lois Lane stories.
Absolutely.
And I'm not just saying that. I know that, John, you are a big fan of Greg's.
And Mike. I mean, seriously, this is a dream team, truly.
And it really is maybe the best thing that they've ever done. And so that's pretty goddamn exciting. And then you have Matt on the other side doing absolute insanity.
Again,
so you've
with
got
the great artist, Steve Lieber. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you've got Greg doing the fiercest, most noir, gonna get the story Lois in his book, and you've got the most bonkers Jimmy Olsen in Matt's book. It's truly beautiful. But yeah, it's Lois is a gift as well, because Lois is the greatest journalist ever in a time where the real world and its relationship to journalism is in constant flux and turmoil.
Yep.
So here's this character who has proven themselves to be above it all, staying above it all. And that is pretty exciting to write. It's also very therapeutic. There's at least 2 reporters in the real world who my heart breaks because they aren't Lois Lane and they should be. And I you see them on Twitter and they're not giving it their all, and it's so heartbreaking. And me and I can speak for Greg on this, and it's the number one motivation for us is that we're writing the Lois we wished existed. As much as we write the Superman we existed in the real world, we're really writing the Daily Planet we wished existed in the real world.
I hear you. No, man. And again, you and Greg, with your takes on both the planet and Lois and stuff, it's like, no, these are the people that need to be writing Lois right now. And I'm glad it's finally happening. But also, I'm going to have to ask you off the air who the real. I have a suspicion of who it might be.
I think a lot of people would. I'll say you off the air. Yeah. I don't want to get into a thing.
Everyone listening right now, fuck you. You're not
honestly, it's just reporters that are capable of brilliance, and in the face of this moment, they're doing nothing.
Interesting.
Just reporting it on the most surface of levels.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Yeah, I understand. So, well, I look forward to the discussion.
And again, remember, I used to work at a newspaper.
Yes,
I used to work at the Cleveland Plain Dealer for years.
Yes.
So my passion here is deep. I've said on the record, if I didn't make it in comics, it would have probably been in journalism. I would not have succeeded because spelling, but.
I understand, man. Well, and
but my passion there is as deep as it goes. And also, it's just, the Planet is just like the Bugle. It's just fun to have a place where you can write about publishing and not be writing about your own ass.
I'm with you.
Right?
Yep.
Because I'm not writing about comics, but I'm writing about publishing.
Hey, we publish.
And I love publishing.
If people really love what's going on in the planet at DC, but also movies like The Post, movies like All the President's Men.
The Post.
Well, and I know, now Brian's going to laugh when I say this, but seriously, on YouTube, back when A&E was showing Lou Grant in the 90s,
I would laugh at that.
All 5 seasons are up on YouTube. And I got to tell you, I fall asleep to many a Lou Grant episode, and it is wonderful to hear because it has that.
We're all amazed you didn't bring up the front page of Walter Matthau.
Exactly. Well, hell, if I was going to do it, I really ought to do it with like Adolphe Menjou and Pat O'Brien from the 30s, the original film.
You got Walter Matthau in a newspaper movie. And
well, you know what? The guy's innocent.
Fun.
There's my Jack Lemmon for you. Jesus. And Carol Burnett in the Fine remake.
What? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good Billy. That's a good late Billy Wilder movie. Absolutely, man. Post 60s.
My point is that the passions for all things Planet. Also, I got to say, you know what's fun? The Planet and the Daily Bugle are 2 different total newspapers.
100%.
They're like nothing that describes to me like how much different it is to write for Marvel and DC than how it is feeling what it is to write the newsroom of the Bugle and the Planet.
Yeah, because like the Bugle is really like a tabloid kind of daily news. At least that was always my vibe reading about the Bugle as we did.
I agree.
And I think the Planet is somewhere between the Times and the Post.
Yeah, no, like the Bugle would write headless torso.
Yes. Yes.
But the Planet. More like, not like the New York Times, but like almost like the Chicago Tribune, my own
town,
right, like an air of quality, but like the city's the city.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, and I think you're right. It's interesting, especially, man, I'll tell you locally, the Times is our Daily Bugle, basically the Chicago Sun-Times, and it's seen better days, and of course, so has the Tribune for that matter. And again, not to sound like 2 old men, but when we were kids, the paper really was a meaty, satisfying read every day, and it's a pamphlet. It's less than a comic book these days.
Siskel and Ebert getting together for that show felt like
sneak previews,
right?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. Yeah, when film criticism had consequences and stuff, it's an interesting time. I watch several what I think are quality YouTube nerd critics that for the most part I'm okay with. Every now and then they get a little too nerdy for me and stuff, but it's a different time. So what do you? Well,
I love all movies and TV shows about journalism. I even love Michael Keaton in The Paper.
Sure,
I love that movie.
Love that movie.
All right, David Koepp, directed by Ron Howard.
Yep.
And so it's just something I always love.
Oh no, it's an energy again.
It's funny show.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, I work at the CBS news station in Chicago, and I mean, I'm reporting traffic, but I am reporting live news. And really, no, it's the vibe of the newsroom. You can't help it. It's great, and it does. It's very very much okay. Story of the moment. Let's get it on the air, and it's great. I feel like the world itself made like journalism under siege, and what a better time to like write what you think is your idealist version of it. Yep.
Yeah.
No,
it just what an itch it scratches.
I hear you, bud. No, it's great. This is interesting from Why the Awesome. Is there any possibility of Kelly getting her own book in the future? Interesting.
After Naomi's success, things are anything can happen in Wonder Comics. The next things up at Wonder Comics are Amethyst has a series coming from one of my favorite creators. That'll be announced, I think, pretty soon, if not at San Diego.
Great.
So I'm pretty excited about that. I've seen the first issue. It's really scrumptious. Again, I don't know what I thought an imprint was going to be like, but it's just great comics by great people. Great.
Sounds good.
And now we're getting ready to do a Jenny Hex.
That's great.
Something. That it seems that, like Naomi, that character offers a perspective of the DC universe that might be appealing.
That's cool.
Because it just seems that was, and then one of the lessons of Naomi is that it's been a while since we've seen the DC universe from someone else's perspective. So, and that, oh, great. Let's do some of that.
That's excellent. I remember when Jen Van Meter was doing a modern day Cinnamon as like a modern day Western and everything. Joan Hilty was the editor on that. And that'll be fun to see another modern day Western, and especially from a female point of view. I'm for it.
Yes. Yeah, great.
And
she's got like a dense history, and she doesn't know it.
Sure.
And the audience that does know it doesn't know it by heart. It's going to be a pretty cool way to dive in.
Excellent. I expect a specter to be haunting her and everything.
And you get to meet evil Ginny shows up soon in Earth 3.
Does she have the funky cheek scar like Jonah?
Yeah, no, she does, and she also has a bowler hat, and that was John's idea. That for a cowboy, someone wearing a bowler hat was a nightmare.
I like that. Bat Masterson. Yeah. I like it. Gene Barry.
That's
Cole Ty Goodman, I'm guessing. Or Colty Goodman. Will we see the future Tim Drake, Batman Savior, or any of the other future Titans again, or at some point in the Young Justice run?
Yeah, they're asking for they've seen a lot of future stuff.
Sure.
Well, Tim is pursuing what he saw. Tim saw a version of himself that brought more questions than answers.
Okay.
And that's what brought him to Young Justice now, and it's only brought more questions. And now when they all come back from their trip of the multiverse, that's when we're going to get to answer some of those questions.
I like it.
And for those, one of the more, I thought, controversial things I wrote online was that Tim Drake is the best Robin, and it seems that the internet actually for once agreed with me. So that was kind of great.
That's interesting. I like the divided opinions.
It's also not true, but it was fun that I just...
I was going to say, because it's very interesting seeing all the divided opinions about Tim Drake and his usefulness, why he was created, do we still need him? I love it all. I find
it's part of what's so frustrating about me as a creator is that there's certain creators that act like politicians and don't say anything that's going to rock, a message board, but I know that we're just in a situation where you have to be more truthful, and I'm just going to have to fall on you're going to figure it out. I think Tim Drake's the best Robin. So I'm just going to have to be myself. And take it. So I'll unlike other creators, I'll be honest and tell you that Tim Drake is the best Robin, and take the shit for it. It's okay.
Eric Eugene Responsible, you've answered this question, but I'm just acknowledging it. Do you miss drawing? And yes, earlier, Eric, you got your answer.
I missed the question.
Oh, so do you ever miss drawing?
No, I just missed the question from before, so it was nice to hear that.
Hey now. All right.
Thanks.
That's another thing you got to tell me off the air. Speaking of hey now.
What?
Stern.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Lee and this is the iChart person again. Leandro Damasceno. Sure. What? Okay. What does the end of Vertigo, the Vertigo line, mean to you? What does it do to DC Comics in general?
Vertigo had a different meaning to me than some of the other creators. I didn't tweet about it a lot. Just some things in homage because I wasn't ever part of Vertigo.
Yeah.
And in fact, as a Caliber creator in the 90s, most of us were trying to be Vertigo creators.
Absolutely, I get that.
Like the Guy Davis of it all is, do really good on your Caliber book, and then DC will pay you money to do
Guy
it for
started Caliber before he got to.
Oh yeah, Guy was doing Vince was doing Deadwood. He was doing the Baker Street. Guy was doing.
Oh sure.
Baker.
Oh, I forgot that was at Caliber. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So from Baker Street, he went on to Sandman Mystery.
God, I love Sandman Mystery Theater.
So
yes.
and then Vince went from Deadwood to the History of Violence.
Oh yeah.
So for a lot of Caliber creators, and what we were genre creators, but without strong superhero takes, right?
Yeah.
All like crime writers or magic writers or sword and sorcery writers were doing independent work, heavy genre work, but independent comics, right? So Vertigo looked like the Holy Grail.
100%.
Like if only Karen Berger will let me do what I'm doing now.
I was going to ask you,
over there and in color.
Did you ever have the chance to like have big conversations with Karen?
100%. So when I was in college, of all things, I met some people, and one person, I was working at a store called Super City Comics in downtown Cleveland, and the owner of that store, one of his friends was John Totleben.
Sure.
And so I got to meet John Totleben on a bit of a social level, and I was as upcoming as it gets. I was in art school, and I was sweaty. I was just like,
Younger listeners, John Totleben, one of the great Swamp Thing artists for Alan Moore, among other great works.
Yeah. So as much a Vertigo stalwart creator as ever there
100%.
was. And has Karen Berger's ear, and is working on Miracle Man with Neil Gaiman, and he sees my work and sees I'm almost there and shows it to Karen Berger for me.
Wow.
Karen then gives me a paid submission, which means here's a Garth Ennis script. I remember it very well. It was a Garth Ennis Hellblazer script.
Wow.
And they paid me for 4 pages.
Damn.
So like $80 a page or something, whatever it was, basically what they pay a kill fee, right? So we're not going to waste your time. We think we're seriously considering you for Hellblazer, so we're going to pay you for it. But it's a tryout. It's a tryout.
Yeah.
I fucked it up.
Ha!
I know, and though I did with all my heart and every passion in my body, drew the shit out of those pages, they weren't good enough, and I wasn't good enough at the time, and that would then motivate me through all the way through Jinx and all the way through Torso.
Hilarious.
that I'm not Vertigo ready,
Wow.
that I'm not good enough. And a few of my peers that I came up with, David Mack, of quite a few of us, were all not like Vertigo rejects, but Vertigo adjacent and Vertigo horny and Vertigo, right?
Yeah, I get it.
But it wasn't our time. It just wasn't. We weren't ready yet, and we weren't, and whatnot. So it was. It was I don't know. It's hard. Like my motivation from Vertigo was I thanked Karen. She got me better. I got where I needed to get to because of that rejection,
Yep.
And it's not like you always sound like Danny DeVito and Get Shorty. Thank you for rejecting me from that horror movie. I would have been typecast. No, I'm really sincere.
No, I get it.
I fucked it up. I learned from it. I got better, and I got where I needed to go. So Vertigo was very important to me. And then even last year, when we brought Pearl and Cover to DC Comics, they didn't know what I was coming in with. And I brought them. I said, "Well, these are the Jinxworld books." And Pat went, "Oh my God, this is like Vertigo ready." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you."
Yeah, that's great.
He didn't know. Like, I'm in DC Comics, and someone that said these are Vertigo ready was as close to I can quit now as I'm ever going to get. Like Pat didn't know that. Pat didn't know that I always felt this way, right?
Sure.
So it was a big deal for me and it was with the same people.
Which Pat? Which Pat?
Alex, David, and Mike, and Michael Gatos, and it was all of us getting rejected from Vertigo, and now we're all at DC doing our thing, and it was pretty cool.
Which Pat? Pat Gleason or somebody else?
McCallahan, who's one of the editors.
I see. Yeah. Okay, there you go.
He just said it out loud. He just said, he looked at him and, "Oh, these are," it was as nice a thing as anyone had said without realizing they were saying.
And I'm sure we're all wondering this as listeners and readers. Let's see what DC does, because yes, they've said that Black Label will exist, and they've explained all the breakdowns of things. But what I haven't seen, and we'll see when a new project is announced, if it is, when something like, God, now I'm blanking, Judd Wittick's Caper. Judd Wittick's Caper would have been a great Vertigo book. It happened to, it was under Dan Didio's Focus imprint at the time. And my question is,
Focus. I forgot about that.
Pulling that out of my ass, absolutely, man. Hard Time, the great Steve Berger, Brian Hewitt, not Brian Hewitt, Six Gun artist. Damn it. You know what I'm talking about.
I know who you mean.
And I see him. Shame on me. I love the guy, actually.
I'm
Every
sorry,
time I see him at cons, he's funny as hell. But anyway, yeah, stuff. Maybe it is Hewitt. But anyway, but spelled differently. Anyway, regardless. Yeah, stuff like that would have been great Vertigo stuff. Will we? That's the question. Moving forward, will we see Vertigo-like stuff under a DC imprint? That's the real question. Original ideas.
Yeah, well. Here's. I have a different perspective on it. I kind of like know
Not
what's coming.
Not with any judgment,
so,
just a question. But
yeah, so it's a little different. So, and I know it was a little frustrating for people because there was like no reference to Jinxworld or Wonder Comics because it doesn't affect them at all.
Sure.
Like nothing's going to change.
Okay, I figured as much, but okay, yeah.
They didn't reference them, and so, but like I know all the projects that are coming, and I've seen them, and they're cool, and they're just as cool, and also I don't know, it was like weird. Like Jim said, "Hey, nothing's getting canceled. We're just rebranding, and we're still going to do what we're doing, and we're still doing create our own work, and we're still doing this and that." And then everyone acted like he didn't say that. They said, "Oh, Vertigo's canceled, and they're never going to take a chance again." And then all these creators started acting like, "Oh, you should buy my book because there's no more Vertigo." That happened a lot.
Sure it did.
But that's not the case. What's interesting is you mentioning that focus line. I remembered Caper as a Vertigo book.
Interesting, yeah.
Right, and the idea is that they just want to have all these things remembered as a certain thing, and that's where they're headed towards with the Black Label. So it sounds good to me, and it sounds like it just sounds like really smart branding in a very complicated culture.
I hear you, man. No, and I get that.
In a very complicated movies every week come out and tank so hard that people's heads are spinning.
God, yes,
because it's near impossible to get anyone's attention nowadays.
I hear you, man. No, it's been a very interesting pre-summer and summer so far.
Yeah,
with things that, but also, I don't know. Were we screaming for another Men in Black? No.
No, yeah, I would have
even something beloved like Toy Story 4, which I'm sure will do well, and that's great. But just as certainly again as someone without kids and stuff, it's like, well, we got 3 really good movies, and it really ended on a nice note. Do we need a 4th movie?
Do we need? But I actually saw Toy Story 4. It's very good.
Great.
Oh, it's very, very good. There's a couple of interesting things about it. Number one, Tim Allen is barely in it, which I found fascinating.
Wow, interesting. That's very interesting. Yes.
Wow.
God, Buzz was so great. Great counterweight always. The two of them were great together. Go on.
He's got Jesse has more lines than Buzz Lightyear.
Wow, very interesting.
Yeah, that was surprising, and you can read into why you think that might be. But I did. It was really funny because remember, Toy Story 3 was like a tears machine.
Oh my God!
Like it was just built to make like millennials and Gen X's cry so they can't breathe anymore.
I can't
right?
rewatch it because it is so hurtful and everything. Yeah, I'm just like.
And there's a story, and Matt tells it, but there's a story where they in an experiment at Pixar turned the movie off at a certain moment to see how many people were crying, and it was everybody.
There you go.
Like they literally turned it off just before all the dolls went into the furnace.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And everyone is just sobbing like it had already happened.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So knowing that, and all my kids are older now, and knowing like I'm okay, but I've been through a lot of traumatic stuff. Yeah. So some shit triggers me. And, I'll be in the office and the funniest fucking thing will trigger me from, what happened last year. And, so I just said, hey, and knowing me and Matt, I just turned to all our kids and I said, listen, I just think you should know there's a very good chance Daddy's going to lose his shit in the middle of this movie. And I just think that why don't we just all just know that's going to happen and just enjoy ourselves. And then at one point during the movie, and the movie is good, but not as emotional as Toy Story.
Well, that's good. That's good.
So I didn't completely lose my mind in front of my kids. But what was so really funny is that I was sitting in a row, and my daughter's behind me. She's 8. She's very funny. And then all of a sudden, during what was an emotional part of the movie, I just heard her in my ear go, "Are you crying?"
Was that Sabrina?
It was hilarious. With a big smile on her face.
Was it Sabrina?
No, it was Tabitha.
That's great.
Yeah. But it was Yeah, it was. It's a very good movie. No, I was all into Men in Black too. I was all ready for it. So I'm of a different mindset that do we need these or do we don't? But it just shows our culture is so fragmented.
Godzilla. Every hardcore Godzilla fan tells me it was a great movie.
Yeah,
haven't seen
exactly.
it. Haven't seen it myself.
Haven't seen it. Didn't know it was coming. Right. So. It's anything DC or Marvel does to brand themselves in our culture is a good thing.
I get that.
You have to mature and know. And I will say, at both Marvel and DC, I have been in the meetings when these things are chosen. They are not done lightly, and all things are considered. And I know I see some fans online going, "It's like they don't care about anything."
No.
I'm like, no, they care on a level you couldn't even possibly fathom. They deeply care. Our names are on these things forever and ever. This is it. We care.
I guess again, I'm echoing other readers saying this, that calling something DC Black Label and calling something DC Vertigo, I don't see the difference. And I think, again, as we all know, Vertigo is certainly in the community. It's like you've just described, all those Caliber guys and all the ambitions that they had.
Yep.
And I remember when Marvel flirted with the Straczynski, Colleen Doran book. And certainly the Max line, in a lot of ways, represented the Vertigo line and the ambitions.
No, absolutely.
So
No. The Max line was when they said, hey, we're going to do a line so Jessica Jones can be in it, and it will be our answer to Vertigo. That's how it was posed to me. That's how important Vertigo was.
But that's what I mean. And again, iZombie on television and the few Vertigo films that have been out there, The Losers is a good example of that, certainly.
No, and my favorite over the weekend, and I'm sorry I'm not on Twitter seeing more of this, thank you, Hacker, is how many people like Andy Corey, who's one of the Vertigo editors, his threads about the deep dive, some of the hidden gems.
Codename Knockout, big fan.
Yeah, like the Vertigo has some
Goodyear.
Twice hidden secret little gems.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, I did a top 10 because everyone's doing, it's better to do a top 5 these days than a top 10. I did a top 10, and I'm like, I easily could name another 10. Without and nowhere, because it was just so obvious, nowhere was there Sandman or Preacher or any of the obvious ones. I'm like, no, like Peter Milligan's Human Target, like Diggle and Jock on The Losers.
Sandman Mystery.
And shame on me, it was not on my first 10, but it definitely was on my second 10. And I love Matt, and I love Steve, and I love Guy Davis, and you're absolutely right. It's the greatest fleshed out Golden Age story. I loved Madame Xanadu that Matt did.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. And then that's what was great about Vertigo, that it could be flexible and be DC Universe stories that were maybe a little too much, but also, again, so many of these original ideas. Like I said, on my list, 100 Bullets and Scalped. Obvious ones, Unfollowed, Unwritten. A lot, just tons of great ideas. And again, it just seems like, throwing away a name that, has meant something for 25 plus years.
Hopefully it's all for the best. Sure. And that what we like about Vertigo, the spirit of it carries on at DC Comics, because that's what we're talking about. Because the spirit does carry.
Sure.
But and from what I've seen, no problem.
Okay. And again,
gonna happen.
Well, in the comics,
gonna happen. And like working with Joe all those years, working with Jim is working with one of our peers. He's one of us.
Well, I also don't.
The agenda is all the same.
I do. I also know no good corporation is going to abandon any sort of trademark. So I would say that it's probably, it's just the truth. It's the truth. Yep. I mean, there's a reason, Shazam. Well, we fucked up. We should have hung out of Captain Marvel. Yeah, when we crushed Fawcett. And they did.
But interesting, like the pop-up imprints. Like people are like, why are you doing a pop-up imprint in the DC universe? Like, I don't get it. But it so helped a part of the audience wrap their heads around what we're doing, right? So then in 3 months' time, when oh, okay, I get what Wonder Comics is, right? It just helps the brand, and that's what Black Label will do. And that's what, by the way, in my opinion, more importantly even, what DC Kids will do. Because DC Kids is, I think, a home run, top to bottom, keep kids reading, keep them interested in the medium, keep them interested in the characters. So... That's what I'm all about.
That's cool. I'm sorry I lost my place, and now I'm scanning, but I'm very close to where we were.
All right. You don't have to read all of them. I thought you were just going to cherry pick.
No, I don't know. I didn't have time to cherry pick. So I mean, are you okay? Energy wise, I'm fine.
We're good. I gotta hang up soon. I gotta hand some shit in tomorrow.
Okay, I understand that.
This is a good one, right?
Yeah. Oh fuck, dude. Of course it is. Absolutely, it is.
I'm just making sure.
100%. No.
Like I deeply feel I haven't said anything stupid yet.
I agree. I also think that you've gotten.
I don't always feel that way by this time in the conversation.
Well, and I mean, honestly, and again, depending on your schedule, I'll tell you my available days, and if we need to do, another run this week. But again, I don't know your work week. You tell me.
Oh yeah, we can do that, and also I'm going to New York on June 23rd, and then I will be back the next week, and you and I will get on the air to talk about it.
Well, it's the 24th, so help me out, timey-wimey. What does that mean? You mean July 23rd?
July 20th.
Oh, okay.
July 20th.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
Can't talk about it yet, but I'll talk about it when I can.
Okay.
But I'll be back, and I'll be able to talk about it on your show.
I always appreciate that. Hold on, now. I was just there.
Coming to New York.
Here we are. Very cool. All right, here we go. DG Harmon, what has been the biggest surprise or most fun you've come across in your Legion research? That might sound like spoiler territory to me.
It's not. I gotta say, and this it's such a weird thing about Legion, but like you're just reading along, and all of a sudden, this issue's drawn by Adam Hughes, and it just happened the other day where I was reading it, and I was like, Alan Davis drew this one. Like it's got the most surprise guest artists.
Yeah.
In every, by the way, this happened in every era.
Yes.
Someone amazing came by and did a couple. Jim Sherman came in and did a couple of, just fine illustrators doing fine work.
No, you're right.
And it looked like everybody, like it definitely seemed like during the Legionnaires run that everyone at Gaijin Studios wanted to do at least one issue.
That's hilarious.
So there's like this weird round robin of all my favorite Gaijin Studios artists from the 90s, all like tag teaming an issue or, it's stuff, honestly, it's stuff like that. And for a guy like me who thinks you found all the little secret nuggets and all the old shit, it's delightful to find more and more, or to find stuff that was so buried you forgot.
Was Jeff Moy in Gaijin Studios back in the day?
I don't know. That's a good question. You should ask.
Because one of my favorite commissions I ever got was Jeff Moy did a Cosmic Boy for me, and I love it. I absolutely. Love it.
I heard from him online too. He's super.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's cool, man. I love the promo piece. Is that Ivan Rice that drew the Legion? No, it's Ryan.
Ivan's the one where it's the yellow one. There's two different ones. There's a couple that are out there that are different.
Well, but regardless, I forget which one where I told you. I'm like, everyone's got Jor-El's hair. I mean, that's the style now, man. Half bald, and business on the side, completely bald on the other side.
No, I think time travel does something to your side.
Could be.
I will say without any. Well, this is just hyper bravado. The first appearance of the Legion in Superman is one of Ivan's great moments as an illustrator.
That's awesome.
And it's so great. I'm involved in 3 or 4 multi-people texts with other creators, and it's gotten where not only do I not draw anymore, I show other people's artwork as if it were mine.
I can attest to that. Yes, go on.
I'm like me and Darrington and Mike and Marquez share artwork on a thread together.
Sure.
Darrington shows his artwork. Marquez shows his artwork. I show Ryan Sook's as if it's mine. But I do it because I know, like Ryan particularly is an artist. Like everyone I'm working with worships Ryan.
I understand.
Right?
I get it.
So it's a lot of people coming up and whispering, "What's it like? How does he do it?" Yeah. So I've been sharing Ryan's process with everybody, and
cool.
It's Ryan's process on the most ambitious thing he's ever done. So it's pretty exciting.
That's fantastic.
Stuff.
That's excellent.
So I'm excited. What I was going to say is that I've been showing the Ivan and Ryan stuff to everyone who will look, and you've seen it too.
Yes, I have. You've been very kind.
Yeah,
yes.
and it's so nice. And if I seem shockingly confident for a neurotic Jew, it's because never have I been sitting on something I knew was gold.
That's great to hear, man. You know how much I love the Legion, and it's I still have my Legion flight ring as well, literally. When DC was cranking those out about 10 or 12 years ago, and I have my Flash one somewhere. But my Legion one, I always have wherever I work. I always have my Legion ring ready, just when I need that escape. I gotta slap it on and fly away. But I love it. Absolutely. So no, I'm very excited.
I want to see. I'm hoping both Young Justice and Legion finds a new wave of merchandise somewhere in the DC world. It does seem that they need more than they have.
Excellent. Jeperna, I'm going to say is how you pronounce that. Very much enjoying your Superman run and appreciate the great word balloon content. Thank you, sir. Does Superman's...
Thank you. And by the way, I've gotten a lot of compliments over the last couple. It seemed to be going very well.
Oh, the word balloons? Thanks, buddy.
Appreciative of the listeners. So thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. 100%, everybody, truly. And I have, too. And it means a lot. And obviously, I'm always happy that Brian shares as much as he does. Listen,
when you hear from as much as us how many people are drawing their comics while they listen to this.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's an honor. Thank you.
It is. It absolutely is. No, and truly... It's so weird because, again, much like you last year, coming off the blindness and everything. I mean, this infection, it wasn't life-threatening, but it was limb-threatening. And
yours was serious, man.
I appreciate it, buddy. And I got through it. And what looked like it was going to be a very frustrating 2019 has, from a word balloon podcast standpoint, very satisfying, incredible conversations.
Yes,
and great.
Yes.
Ed came back after his 6-year exile. That was fantastic in March. Yeah. Greg and I just had a really great talk, as you know. Josh, Williamson and I have been talking about this for 3 or 4 years, and we finally sat down and had a really nice conversation in the episode before. And really,
have you talked to Mark Russell?
No, I'd love to talk to Mark Russell.
I'm going to make that introduction.
Oh, that'd be my pleasure. Please do.
Well, he wasn't I know some people think I just hired all my friends to do Wonder Comics, but that wasn't the case at all. I hired the best people, and Mark Russell wasn't, and my friends are not the best people. They're just not. And I realized what that sounded like after I said it. But Mark was someone who I went, oh my god,
genius! He's a great writer.
This guy's comics, right?
Yeah.
So, and now that I've worked with him for like 6 months, I'm like, oh, he's the greatest. You gotta have.
Oh no, I hope so, man. You were great.
I dragged him right into my class. I'm like, oh, this guy knows shit.
Oh, did he speak to your class?
Yeah,
oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. That's great. Is he local?
No, that if you are in Portland, you have to speak to my class. It's an obligation.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. Good Lord, I hope that I visit.
No, anybody in comics.
You didn't mean me.
It's like a jury duty.
They don't need to hear from me. That's all right. Yeah. Exactly. Maybe for a podcasting class, we'll see what else Portland State has to offer on the curriculum. But anyway, Jay Perna wants to know: does Superman's vulnerability to magic interest you?
Yes, I saw that question too, and I was very excited about that. Hell yes. Anything that Superman is vulnerable, shitty fathers, magic, sons going off to places, all of that I'm into. But yes to the magic thing. I think magic is a fun thing to play with in the DC universe. In a way where at Marvel it was always like this struggle to define it. There's something about DC's that it's pretty defined.
Excellent. Now I'm skipping
people may disagree.
I am skipping a few people that are like yay Captain Carrot and yay Legion and everything. Mark Ender, the Young Justice kids, the Superman family, Legion, everything to me. You're coming to DC and giving me back all these things I love means more to me than I can express. Will you address Legionnaires? Go on.
No, just like, usually that's followed by a big butt.
Yeah, however, that's what I miss.
Not you.
No one has done that. That was always like a big Jinxworld message board thing. Everything is great, however, and it would give me the chance to drop my voice when I say it.
Well, I'm sure they're on Twitter.
Mark wants to know: will you address Legionnaires Monel and XS, who have ties to present-day DCU Clark and Bart in your new Legion?
No, that's an excellent question, yes. And I'm going to say yes. In a roundabout way.
Okay.
And that's not a bullshit answer.
All right. Excellent. Monel, one of my absolute favorite Legionnaires, always was.
Hilarious how much Monel hate I get online. Because this has been my week.
Really?
We really haven't even got to talk about this. My week as a Legion writer, this is my first week as a public Legion writer. Yeah. I've been a Legion writer since I got out of the hospital.
Okay.
but now people know.
Right.
So I'm getting an earful from all corners. All corners.
They all hate Monel.
And it's hilarious how they all disagree on everything except everyone hates Monel.
Crazy.
I look at my Twitter feeds if you can. I can't, but if you can, go look.
That's amazing. I love. Not only do I love
it might
Monel,
be the same person hitting me over and over again, but it seemed like a lot of people.
But I also love the idea that Daxamite is like Nazi Krypton, or fascist Krypton, basically.
Yeah.
And I love that because it's very Romulan Vulcan, to put my Star Trek boner out there. I just do. And also, again, I've always loved Monel. And when Straczynski was doing his Superman monthly story, and they took him off the board. And James Robinson has the brilliant idea of, here's Monel's adventures in the 21st century. And it's like, yeah, that's a great idea. I love Monel. And obviously he's not Clark, so he's not going to make the same choices. So I know that Colleen Doran is a big Monel fan as well. So.
Totally.
But that makes me laugh. That's awesome. And XS, she's nice.
No,
too.
I'll tell you, it was a very funny, and I completely enjoyed it. It was a very fun, there was, and I had this with Young Justice a little bit too, but I knew what was coming with the Legion fans, and also the Legion. I wasn't hinting. I wasn't even hinting that I wasn't writing Legion. I made it very clear Legion was coming the whole time in DC. So, but I also knew I was coming with Ryan and Jim Lee and Nicola Scott. I knew I was bringing the thunder so I could tease a little bit. So it's funny that the Legion fans have had nothing for years, right? Yeah. It's been a wasteland, a deserted wasteland. And they've been tweeting at me all year, Brian, it's a deserted wasteland. Please. And then we released the one image and they go, yay! I don't like that haircut. And then immediately it wasn't even it's the most brilliant comic book,
It's a great money shot.
Everything about comics in one
It's
thing.
a beautiful money shot, absolutely. But yeah, I can't deny. I'm like, hey, everyone's got fucked up hair. All right. It's like, okay, I don't care, but it just is interesting observation. All right, whatever. Something happened to something killed all the barbers. I think that needs to be a story.
You are hilarious.
Come on,
listen. Not everyone's going to be into the sexy look you're into right now.
No.
In 1,000 years in the future, they're going to have different looks.
I am compiling my own John Suntress's DC Universe stories, and we've discussed them on Bendis tapes. The first one was Clark rummaging through the Fortress of Solitude, finding the shorts, putting them over his tights. That's how we got to where we are again. And he has those little flashback memories of various things as he's looking through drawers. Oh, look, there's that Phantom Zone projector I used that one time that Jack Sir got out, or whatever. A bunch of vignettes. And now the other one is the strange reason why all the Legionnaires have fucked up hair. Something happened to all the barbers, and I'm telling you, this is a story. We got to do this. Come on, Wonder Comics, give me your goddamn imprint. Let's go.
Well. The quiet isn't me looking at Instagram. I'm writing as you're talking. Yeah. It's brilliant, and I'm not going to let it go.
I understand. Here.
I love it.
Jay Dici, will you ever do a third Goldfish story for a trilogy?
Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah. I had to go third one, and I did.
Well, I'm assuming Jinx and Goldfish, right? Or because I had the softcover. Did that collect two different runs?
Well, no. Goldfish was a story, but Goldfish is also a character in Jinx, and I think and that's the whole meal. So I think he's referring to that as the second one. So no, but I will say that because that is, it feels a little like looking back for me.
Fair enough.
But the Jinxworld books that are coming out right now, like Pearl, is thematically in the same place as Jinx. Sure. It's very romantic. It's about kids in a crime-riddled nonsense. So there's a spiritual connection there that I'm happy I'm still writing about because it clearly still means something to me. Like there's a creative honesty there that I'm happy about. But I think those characters are those characters. But I'm enjoying writing the themes through different lenses. How's that?
All right. Does that make sense?
So check out the first Fate of Pearl. I think you'd if you like Goldfish,
100%.
I think
No, I agree with you. I absolutely
way better drawing.
I'm teasing you. No, I get it. I get what they're asking, but also, I would agree with you that I think spiritually these current Jinxworld things are, especially Cover and Pearl,
and like Murder Inc.
And certainly Murder Inc.
Yeah,
that's fair.
So
absolutely.
So it feels as good and nerve wracking as those books felt when I was making them. So it feels the same way to me.
Tone Wah wants to know: will we see Stephanie Brown again soon?
Yes, yeah. Obviously, right. In the people now know that we have not thrown her away, and Tim is actually trying to get back to her as they're in the middle of something. So that hopefully that's what will happen.
Do you now? I'm looking at the time. I know that it's like 1:05 your time. Do you want to end with like a writerly question?
Let's write out some huge.
All right, because this is a good one here. And forgive me, folks, because I did skip a couple that we've already covered ground. What are your plans for Tim?
I assume I answered your version too.
So sorry, Mark Kiefer. Sorry, last BB-8. WDM 1262. When you're plotting out something as big as Leviathan or any story like that, what do your notes look like? Is it thumbtacks and string, or just much like A Beautiful Mind, or just copious notes on your computer? Essentially, how do you manage so many threads and characters without it being too much? Also, okay, well, do you want to break this down? Because let's see. Also,
no, it's first an excellent question, yes. And this is one that does have to. Some stories, the premise, you can take for a spin, and then start breaking the story down. But with this one, it's a mystery, and it needs to be broken down like a mystery. Sure. So that's reverse engineering the story towards the inevitable ending. So that means there's planning, and that planning does look a lot like the front page of every issue of Action Comics that you've seen so far.
Which I love. That's such a great.
It's just hilarious. I keep laughing at them because we keep doing jokes, and in the jokes are real things that are on our real tables that look like jokes because they're from Lois Lane, but actually have a note that says, So I have digital notebooks and physical notebooks and little sketchy things, and so it's just a lot of planning, and also I don't plan everything the same way twice because I learned early on a great way to not repeat yourself is to not repeat yourself. So if you're not planning things the same way, you can't accidentally repeat yourself. So yeah.
Okay.
But then you get into the where am I? Because I'm not repeating myself. What the hell did I do? So that's kind of what I described about Event Leviathan when I started, because I was so off the plan. What would be the plan of this? That I did not have a plan, but then I did. I just had a thriller instead.
Do you ever do the billboard and note cards, thumbtack, each page or each panel?
I do lists instead. I don't do cards and look at them on a wall. I've always hated those, and I know we do them when we do like TV shows, like Powers. We have them, and I've been in the room with them, and I've done them before. So I'm not against them in the. I know I've done them, and I go, my brain, like Greg's brain, works with cards. That's why I like working with Greg so much, because our brains work differently, and I am more intuitive and emotional. So I like to beat that out, and I also like to put the characters into a situation and let them tell me how they feel about it, not tell them how to feel about it, and so if you overcard, you can card your characters into a box that they can't escape from, and they could be screaming at you a better story. So I kind of plan my story like I plan my day, which is I pretty much know how the day's going to go. And if it goes that way, great. But you know what? It's probably not going to go the way I think it is, and I'll deal with it. So that's how I handle it.
I'm nodding. Josh Williamson.
Does that make sense? I know. Does that make sense? But that's an ethereal thing. Letting the story unfold as it needs to versus how it has to. And some stories have to unfold the way they do, and some stories don't. And kind of catching that is where the real good moments can come from.
Josh Williamson said the same thing. He said that was something he learned in your class, putting characters in a room and just having them speak. Again, he said that's how he was getting Barry's voice for Flash.
Yeah, and for those who want the more extended version of it's a writing exercise. I talk about it in Words for Pictures, but basically, if you don't fully think you know your character or how your character is going to respond, or you just want to take it for a spin and figure out what you're writing about, you take your character and you just put them in a room with another character. And you don't even have to know who that other character is, and just write, hi, hello, blah, blah, blah. And eventually one character will say something that annoys or entertains the other character, and you're off to the races. I have always found myself, the voices in my head seem to want to fight. So they argue with each other a lot, right? So once you have two characters start to argue, oh my God, it's a story. So that's my writer's block thing.
I like it. Do you want to put a button on that right now?
Yeah.
Say? I figured as much. Hey, everyone who's listening, I'll take a quick moment to plug, because I rarely do this during the conversation with Brian.
Listen to this plug. You've gotten hours of free shit from this dude. All you got to do is not fast forward this.
I appreciate that. Do me a favor, if you like what you hear on Word Balloon, would you follow Word Balloon on YouTube? That would be great. I've got 300 and change followers. I'd like to get over 1,000. I keep flirting with the idea of doing some YouTube-y stuff. I don't know if I will or not, but I want the opportunity to do that and have a nice size audience to do that.
What is YouTube-y stuff?
Well, I don't know. You know, I keep thinking about what would I do. Would I just take Q&A and maybe do something where I'm talking to the Word Balloon community and doing a regular chat? I don't know. I
think you have archives of stuff that you should release in different.
Well, that goes without saying, and truly,
and you have. I know we were talking about this a little bit. You have like the same question answered by 20 different writers.
Yes, I do. And that's a book.
On YouTube.
I agree with that, and I also, I agree, and believe me, I've got a few writing ideas that. As you were, finishing your semester and have time in the summer, I find myself with extra time in the summer.
Yes, start doing the next project.
Yeah. No, and truly, is not just a word lip service. And Rucka always beats me up about it too.
It didn't sound like bullshit at all. No.
But and really, again, you might have heard it at the beginning of the show. If you like what you hear, and if you'd like to subscribe to Word Balloon, you don't have to. I've been doing this for 14 years. I have never charged a dime for my content. Well, that's not true. I guess back in the early days, I did have a couple conversations in a paywall that were more extended with Greg and I think Busick and a couple and Loeb. But this is like literally
those were like sexy conversations.
2005. Right? I think it was even before my first conversation with you.
That was Word Balloon After Dark. That was an experiment that went awry.
So, but if you have it in your budget and think Word Balloon is worth $1 a month, maybe the price of a comic book a month. All I've been doing really since being the infection is really putting out more Word Balloon than ever. Consider subscribing to patreon.com/wordballoon. That'd be great. Back my sponsors. They're good people. They're good products. I don't, I won't deny that it's nice to have money, but I really do like all the products that I've ever endorsed on Word Balloon.
I want to live in the world where you live comfortably off of doing this. Right? Isn't that that's the dream?
That's the dream.
The dream is that you can live off of the thing that you're doing.
Absolutely.
So there's no reason in the world with all the awesome content you have that you shouldn't be able to. So let's make that
Thank you. And truly, this is like you were saying about having a regular job, but treating what you do on creatively as a job. This is the radio show I've always wanted. It has become a reality because of these 14 years. And I thank you. And it's growing. It's growing great. And honestly, I don't take any of it for granted. If it can be something I could do as a full-time concern, that would be wonderful. And it would help by getting your help. So thank you, listeners, for doing this. And we'll.
You just listened to a podcast of two humbled middle-aged men who've had a health scare.
This is true.
But found themselves very happy to be doing what they do for a living.
100%.
Which I'm sure you had that too. Like, oh, I like this. Thank God you didn't sit in the hospital and go, what am I doing?
Oh, no. And truly, like I said, this year's just been a ridiculous gift of these 6 months post getting out of the hospital and starting the healing process and everything. No, it's been a wonderful 6 months. And really, all of you listening have been incredibly kind with your concern and your attention and your patronage. And truly, I genuinely appreciate it. And Brian, as always, I thank you for being my friend and also being willing to come back for these wonderful conversations.
I can't wait. I think, did I hear we may do this live in my house in September? Is that
it's a possibility?
October,
I certainly hope so. And that might be a little project that we'll see if
then we should do like me, you, and Greg and Matt, or we should do them here.
Oh God, yeah.
You know?
Oh no, that'd be great. No, I'm kind of hoping that Mac will be back from being the spy who came in from the cold.
Yeah. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. I literally go, David, I don't have Twitter. Are you okay?
I'm in.
Could you please update me every 3 hours just to stay on okay? Oh my God.
I love that.
I know. No, it's beautiful. And, but there's like protests going on there right now. And I just.
Really? Where he's at? For real?
Yeah. Well, he's on the plane now, so it's okay. But it was a little nerve wracking for a couple days.
All right. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And I David's my oldest, dearest friend. And I'm like, there's nothing about David going out that way that would surprise me. So I just don't want to say how.
Hell yeah. Jesus Christ. Too funny, man.
David joined. David helped the militia overthrow us.
Good news, Mac. The military juntas are behind us. Hey, great. That's fantastic. Jesus Christ. Well, too goddamn funny.
David's okay. He's excellent. And cover Volume 1, which may or not be true, is on sale now.
The trade is out.
The trade is
out. I know that, absolutely, including a word balloon reference, which I appreciate, boys. And
yeah, absolutely.
That was amazing. That was great. All right, we will pick up this Bendis tapes likely in a couple weeks, if not immediately. Yes. And I know sometimes we make that promise, and then suddenly it's 4 months later. I think we're going to be okay.
No, but
like you said, you're going to New York.
Have something going on we have to talk about.
Okay. Oh, beautiful.
We'll definitely be talking.
Wow, I'm thrilled. Sometimes I'm happy when it's just quarterly, but no, that'd be great. We could talk in a month. That'd be wonderful.
You got it.
All right, I'm going to leave it right there, and then now I want to know. All right, so. Well, there you go. That's the plan. We'll reconvene in a couple weeks and hopefully hit Brian while he's in New York in late July and present to you part 3 of this Bendis tape session. Man, I'll tell you, and as he said too, he's happy with this one. So am I. Lots of great ground covered, I think, in these 3 hours that we spent last night. Worth it. Worth the lack of sleep that I am suffering through this Monday. But that only means great entertainment for you. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, it was brought to you by Aftershock Comics, where they are giving us some incredible titles this year in particular. Things like Dark Red from Tim Seeley, and Stronghold from Phil Hester, and Oberon from Ryan Parrott, and more great releases are on the way this summer. Things like the horror anthology Shock from Joe Pruitt, Cullen Bunn's Knights Temporal, anything with time travel, you have me at hello. And obviously that's what's happening in Cullen's news story. Cullen's coming back with Dark Arc with he and Wando, I think, in the fall, and a new arc of that. Also, just debuted last week, Chris Sabella's Trustfall. And later in September, Matthew Klickstein's You Are Obsolete. Just a few of the great Aftershock titles coming in the weeks and months ahead that will cut across genres and take readers far beyond their comfort zones. Go to their website and you will find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. Thanks for listening. Thank you. I hope you'll hit YouTube and look for Word Balloon at YouTube and subscribe to the Word Balloon channel over there. There's already content up and running over there. You can find these episodes and more of the Word Balloon archive on YouTube under Word Balloon's banner. And then also, of course, you can find Word Balloon, where you get your podcast, Stitcher, iTunes, everywhere. By all means, leave me a review if you don't mind over at iTunes or wherever the current Apple podcasts reside. Any chance you can, give me a few stars if you like it or no stars, and write a review if you think I suck. By all means, I can handle it. It's all right, but let the podcast platforms know, however you get it, that you're subscribing to Word Balloon, that you enjoy Word Balloon. And it's a podcast that you enjoy listening to. Thank you, really. I truly mean it, and I meant it really at the close of the talk directly with Brian. Lots of great ideas for Word Balloon for 2019 and beyond that I will be pursuing very hard this summer and throughout the year. So, like I said, it's been a very surprising year in a lot of positive ways, and a lot of it has been the listenership responding so positively at what I do and being there for me. So, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Until next time, Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions. Copyright 2019.